Hey everybody, just want to make a quick video about writing cleaner code and using lists and string methods to help make your code a little bit cleaner and adding more logic to your code. So we're going to go over this. I just want to make this a really quick video, so we're just going to jump right in. So I have this function here, and basically what it does is it takes a string and it returns true or false whether the string is a single character, a letter, and a vowel, all three of those at the same time. It has to be all three. If all three of those are true, then it returns true. So in my first implementation of this, I just did it really quick and messy for you guys, but we have this function here. So there's three if statements, which I just said there was three conditions, so three if statements. If the length of the string is just one, if the character is a letter, which is what the is alpha returns, and if that character is in these kind of like this string that contains all the vowels, if that specific character is in here, then we want to return true. If it gets to any of these and it's not true, then we want to return false. Doesn't matter which one it gets to. As soon as it gets to one where any of these aren't true, then it's false. Quick note about all these Boolean if statements here. All these things after the word if all evaluate to true or false. So we always know it's either going to be one condition or the other. It's never going to be some weird in-between state. Like a character can't be a letter and a number at the same time. That doesn't really make sense. And it can't be, the string can't be one character long and then also more than one or less than one at the same time. And it can't be in the list of like vowels, but also not in the list of vowels at the same time either. So all of these are always going to be either true or false. Now, some characters in the overall string might be in the list of vowels, but we're only checking one character at a time. In this case, we're checking the whole string, but, you know, in that case, I guess. But if it wasn't one character, then it wouldn't get past that, so it would never get to that point. So this code right here isn't really clean because it's what we call arrow code, which means that there's like an if and then an if and then an if, and it just kind of goes down like an arrow, like a staircase. And if you had like 7 more of these, your if would be like all the way out to here, and you wouldn't even see what the line is, and it would be like basically from this point forward, and it would be really hard to see. And it just looks really messy and gross, and like, look at all these return falses. It just seems really ridiculous, you know? I mean, there are valid reasons to do something like this, because sometimes you don't want to do computationally intensive stuff unless you know that the thing that you're on is true. Like, maybe, okay, maybe the character is only one character long, like maybe because, like, you know, we've established that the length of the overall string is only one character long, so we don't want to try to do some step here that's gonna be really computationally intensive if there's like 1,000,000 characters in that string. So there are valid reasons to do something like this, and it does come up in real coding, unfortunately. But and at least in this particular example, it's not a good idea. And for most cases and what you're going to be doing with strings, it's still not a good idea. Really, the only time you want to do something like this is if you're working with really large data sets. And if you don't really know Python and you're working with really large data sets, you should probably just let the professionals handle it at that point. So basically what I'm saying is you basically never want to do this unless you really, 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 really know what you're doing. So try to avoid doing stuff like this. So let me show you an alternative. So before I get into that, there's these two built-in functions in Python called all and any. You might have noticed these. What they do is they take a list of Boolean values, or not necessarily a list, it could be any iterable item, but it takes a, well, we'll just say list because that's the first iterable other than strings that we've covered so far. But it takes a list of iterable items, so like a list that's just true, true, false, true, false, true, true, whatever, but it's just a list, and everything in the list is either true or false. And so basically it takes a list of iterable items, and all will return true if every single item in that list is true. So if we have 1,000,000 trues but one false, all will return false because they're not all true. Any, on the other hand, is kind of like, and by the way, this is kind of like an and statement. So it's kind of like saying, if I combined all these into one big and statement, that's kind of like that. Any, on the other hand, is more like an or statement. So it'll only return true if even one of those items is true. And it returns true as soon as it gets to the first true item. So if you had a million falses and then one true at the end of the list, it wouldn't return true until it got to that true. But if the true was the first item in the list, then it would only execute the first item and then it would return true. That's important computationally because you may have like a lot of things that it has to check. But still, so we can use that. So notice this is kind of like an and because we need all three of these things to be true. So we kind of need all three of them to be true. And if we need all three of them to be true, it's kind of like saying if true and true and true, then do this. So let's use the all function here. So I created another version of this. Now, yes, I use the all function. And remember, I returned what the all function returns. The all function, if you remember what I just said literally like 10 seconds ago, the all function will return true if every item in the list is true. What that means is if I return what this all function returns, then this, the whole thing, will evaluate to true or false. So I'm not going to do that because I want to keep my all function in there. But that's basically what I'm doing when I say return and then I call this function. What I'm doing is I'm returning what that function returns. Okay, so this is my list. This is where I made all the conditions. But let me talk about this part first. So this is where I basically just took these exact blocks of code right here and I assigned them to variables. You don't necessarily have to make them variables. I could have just put these as like comma separated values in this list. But I wanted it to be a little bit more clear as to what I'm checking. I know this code is pretty like obvious as to what each part is checking, but I wanted to make it even more clear in plain English just for the sake of clean code, which is what this kind of whole thing is all about that I'm telling you about. So for the sake of clean code, I really wanted to do that. Now I didn't include the doc string in this function because it's doing the exact same thing and I didn't want to take away from what I'm trying to tell you right now. But just know that it's literally the exact same function. It just like it ends up doing the same thing. It just kind of gets there differently. So these are all my variables here. So I have the character is a single character and that will be true if this is true. And then we have the character is a letter and that will return true if that's true, obviously. And then the character is a vowel, or the string is a vowel. And in that case, this will return true if it is a vowel. And notice one quick thing, by the way. In all of my Boolean variables, I always put the word is or was or has somewhere in there, which is kind of just like a general English thing. But that's because you can read this variable. Like, pretend you can't even see this. Like, let's just delete this for a minute. What would this be? What kind of variable do you think this would be? If I went up to you and asked you, hey, is that string a single character? What would you say? Yes or no? One of the two. That's a yes or no question. I mean, yeah, you could say, I don't know, because you don't know what the string is or whatever. But like, assuming that you knew what the string was, is it yes or no? Because it can't be more than one letter if it's only one letter. And if it's more than one letter, it can't be a single letter. Like, duh, that's not how math works. So let me undo what I did. So that's why I always use the word is, has, or was in my Boolean variable names. These variable names are a little bit wordy, but I just wanted to like be explicitly very clear as to what they represent. So anyway, now all I did was I made a new variable that represents a list of all those three things. It's literally just the same. It's just a list that just contains those three things that I made up there. And then I just put that all into a single variable and I say this is the ideal character conditions that we're checking for. And then we just pass that into the all function, because remember the all function requires you to give it some kind of iterable. You have to give it like a list or a dictionary or something that it can iterate through. Otherwise it won't work. So I can't just say, since you guys don't really know a lot about the all function really, I can't just say string is a single character and then string is a whatever. I can't do that because it's not like the print function. It requires an iterable item. So anyway, if I wanted to see if just any of these are true, which kind of defeats the purpose of the whole function, but if I did want to just do that, I can do the exact same thing, but with any, and then there we go. Now it will return true if maybe one of these is true, but maybe the rest of it isn't. Like maybe if it's like only a single character, but it's like a number, so these two aren't true. Sorry, these two aren't true, but maybe it is a single character, so then it would return true. So that's how the any and all function works. Look how much cleaner this is compared to this craziness. Look how crazy this is to look at as opposed to this. You see what I mean? Just writing cleaner code. It makes your life so much easier. So much easier. Look how easy this is to look at, as opposed to this. Anyway, I'm done talking about it. That was my super quick video about this. Super quick, quote unquote. It's like 10 minutes. But anyway, that was my video about it. I hope you guys find it helpful. I'm gonna get back to working on this mess back here. I'll see you guys later. Bye.